Apparently, we have some numbers on Ghost of Yōtei's sales. According to Endymion and a source that he has, they are saying not good would be an understatement. He says, I have Ghost of Yōtei's sales numbers. Video in the making now. They're lying to you guys, and it's bleak. See you then. Which is pretty telling that if this is to be believed, again, it's just a source, but you pair it with the deafening silence of Sony and Sucker Punch and the other rumors we've had from Chris String saying that it's selling 40% less than Tsushima, it paints a very rough picture. We got Grum's #1 game in Japan. The shills are already saying it's a success for Yotei in Japan, but just like in the UK, they are leaving out the 43% drop in physical sales. Yes, stuff might just be moving to digital, but why aren't they reporting all the facts? Was it inconvenient to weaving the narrative? And this comes from Genki, which I'll mention in a second. Ghost of Yōtei was the #1 best-selling game in Japan this week. It sold 120,000 physical units at launch on PS5, which, again, on the surface, sounds decent for a launch in Japan, except when you consider it's literally a game based in Japan around samurais and feudal Japan. Like, of course the Japanese are going to want to play this game. Yes. But still, how did it do compared to Tsushima? Software sales, lifetime followed. Ghost of Yōtei, 120. Ghost of Tsushima, 212. So we have it doing almost half the sales. That's not great. And Deviant replied, they will know tomorrow. He also said, to be fair, Japan is more of a mobile game country, so this number isn't bad, actually. Credit where it's due. We got a lot of people coping and trying to push this narrative that it is a really good number once this came out, because it came from Famitsu. But we got King Gamer saying, #1 in Japan, #1 in the UK. How's that boycott going? Which, first off, I mean, I don't know if it was a boycott. It was just people saying, I don't want to participate in purchasing a product that hired someone that I disagree with on a fundamental level that is now illegal. And they show the software sales for Ghost of Yōtei. And the competition was pretty weak. I mean, we got a 20-year-old ROM. How old is Super Mario Galaxy? And Galaxy 2 is #2. Final Fantasy Tactics, I'm surprised, but that's also a remake, so maybe that explains why it's so low. And then Mario Kart World. So this is, oh wait, sorry, they're separating it for platforms. That's why it's so low. Final Fantasy Tactics for Nintendo Switch, Final Fantasy Tactics for PlayStation 5, Final Fantasy Tactics for Switch 2. Okay, so add those all together, and then it's #2 for Final Fantasy. Okay, that would make sense. So it's still, that's not that great. It's just the competition that week was no other games really coming out. That's really what it is. EA Sports FC, a game that came out the week before, #2, beating out everything else. So, I mean, yes, it's #1, but I would have predicted it to be #1 when it launched, given the competition that came out. That's not the W you think it is. That's not the own. One, no one cares, mate. Just enjoy your game. I don't know why you're like this. Did someone hurt you? Not numbers I'd brag about. What are the US sales where the boycott is in effect? Nice try, which is a great point, by the way. There is no boycott in Japan. Japan doesn't even know what Antifa is. They don't understand the dynamics of the politics going on in America right now. They just see, oh, Japanese game, follow up to Tsushima. Cool, I'll buy it. And honestly, if I was in that environment, I probably would buy it too. No sales numbers in a week. How is that going for you? Battlefield will launch tomorrow. How is that going for you? Tons of other games launching in coming weeks. How is that going for you? Fails to mention how all those numbers are much lower than Tsushima's numbers. I'd say that boycott is going well, bud, which is hysterical because early data from countries that have reported point to significant increase in Ghost of Yōtei's digital sales versus Tsushima, which no, that's not true, according to what was shared with what we have here. Now, again, this is Japan, just going by what we have that's actual tangible to go with. But we have so much coping going on, it's not even funny. We got Genki saying, Ghost of Yōtei, #1 best-selling, sold 120. Yeah, it's great. Source, Famitsu. And Grum says, not so fast, Chief. Sales are down 43% over Tsushima. And Genki replies, these are good sales for PS5 software in Japan. That's not the point. Now you're moving the goalpost, bro. The overall PlayStation physical software market in Japan is down about 50% from the PS4 era. Okay, still not making your point any better. This is not making people go out and buy the console to play this game, where I would argue Tsushima actually did that. Andy Pence, yikes, that's not many copies. It has been a colossal failure. This is what happens when you take a successful game and put a chick in it and make her lame and gay. Joraptor, who says, Ghost Yotei debuts with 120,000 physical copies sold in Japan, PS5 install base. And then it says, Ghost of Tsushima launched with 212,000 physical copies sold, 1 day less on sale. Wow. So it has even more sales. AC Shadows, 17,000 physical copies. Yeah, yikes. AC Shadows is terrible. That's really bad. Grums continues, and he says, Ghost Yōtei not so loved in Japan after all. Physical sales are down 43% from Ghost of Tsushima, according to Just Release's Famitsu data. The press has been claiming the game is a runaway hit in Japan with no data, but the first data we see says otherwise. But of course, these are physical copies. Link in reply going to Famitsu. And it says, seems like the game is not liked by anyone, anywhere. And this one, I really want to focus on this before I go into the article, because I thought this was fascinating. Nick Tech posted Ghost Yōtei versus Ghost of Tsushima visuals side-by-side comparison. And this is actually Tsushima on the left, Yotei on the right. I gotta be honest, guys. If you can tell a difference, please let me know. I mean, Yotei looks really good. It looks really good. Give it credit where it's due. It looks really good. But I mean, dude, this is PS4. I mean, what are we doing here? This looks amazing. This is what always cracks me up when people are like, oh, but Yotei's graphics are so good. That's why the game's awesome. Did you play Tsushima? Because that game blew me away with the graphics. On my OG PS4, I did not even have the PS4 Pro. And I didn't even play it on the PS5 when it came out for that. Just on the base PS4, it looked incredible. This is the Famitsu sales. 929 to 10.5. Ghost Yōtei debuts at 120,000 retail copies sold, which you would think sounds like a lot, but for a game based in Japan, about Japan, that's pretty low. Famitsu has published its estimated physical game software data for Japan for a week of September 29th to October 5th. Ghost Yōtei was the highest selling new release, opening at 120,000 retail copies sold. Also new this week, Final Fantasy Tactics opened at a total of 81,000, almost 82,000, with 41,000. Okay, it breaks them down there. And then Mario Galaxy 2, 48,000. It's almost 50,000. So respectable for that game. That's for a physical version of it. Respectable. On the hardware side, Switch 2 sold 444. So it goes into talking about the consoles being sold. And then we get into the actual charts here. Software sales charts. And again, I know we talked about this earlier, but it's wild to me that people are trying to take this as some sort of win for physical sales of Ghost of Yōtei when there's no competition outside of a remake of Final Fantasy Tactics, a re-release of Mario Galaxy and Galaxy 2, an older game that came out when the Switch 2 launched, Digimon story. I'm surprised that Silent Hill F is so far down. Maybe that had a good opening week in Japan. I'm shocked it's so low though. And I'm also shocked Donkey Kong Bonanza is so low. That's crazy. But overall, looking at this is not a win. This is not a win at all. And going back to Endymion's post here, talking about how he's going to be making a video with his source. I know there's already people that are going to be just brushing off what Endymion says, saying, oh, your sources trust me, bro. Okay, maybe it is. But my experience with Endymion is typically he's been pretty accurate in the past, at least to my best of my recollection. He's been fairly accurate with the numbers he's gotten from his sources. And in my conversations with him behind the scenes before making this video, he told me that they are really, really bad. Those weren't his words specifically, but that was the vibe that I had coming away from the conversation I had with him. I was like, oh. So I'm very curious to see what Endymion has to say with this video based off of his source of how Ghost of Yōtei sold in America and potentially even worldwide, or in this case, lack thereof. And something people need to keep in mind when they're trying to say, oh, well, they shipped XYZ amount of copies to stores. All these copies, a crazy amount, what they say, 250,000 copies physical sold or to stores or more than that. Have you seen the images online where it's just stacks and stacks and stacks of Ghost of Yōtei at Walmart, GameStop, Target? No one was buying it physically. So it doesn't count. You can't say it was sold to the store. Those aren't sales of the game. Because if they don't sell, they go back to the distributor. You can't say how many you sent to the stores. That doesn't count as a sale. I don't know how many times you have to go over this with people, but it counts as a sale when someone actually buys it from the store, which doesn't seem to be happening. Now, maybe in the game's defense, maybe it is selling a lot digitally, and this is the great migration to digital. I just have a really hard time believing that as well. I feel like that would explain why Sucker Punch and Sony have remained silent for the first, week of the launch now? We have 7 days in, and they still have not said anything about sales. They haven't cheered anything on. They haven't even talked about players engaged. They haven't said anything, which tells me that internally, it's not working out as great as they had hoped. And based off of the rumors of Sony cutting back on advertising budget, cutting back on what they were planning on spending post-launch for this game on a bunch of different things, all the stories we're hearing doesn't add up to something exciting or big for Sucker Punch. Just being honest. I'm not just trying to be a hater to get an own and be a chud with a W. It's like, no, this is the reality. It doesn't feel like the game is really selling very much. That's the truth. Maybe the game identifies as selling really well. We'll see how well that works out for it in the long run. But I'll leave that one there.